The executive session of the Aurora City Council for Monday. Oh, study session, ouch. Study session for July 27, 2026 is called to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Kaufman.
Here.
Councilmember Andrews. Councilmember Bergen.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Coombs.
Present.
Councilmember Gardner. Councilmember Hancock.
Here.
Councilmember Horton.
I'm here.
Councilmember Jackson.
Thank you.
Councilmember Lawson. Here. Councilmember Medina.
Here.
Councilmember Wiles.
Here.
There's a quorum.
Well, and Councilmember Gardner is excused tonight. Mayor's update. Mayor Pro Tem contacted me, and over the weekend we went back and forth on a statement about tuberculosis outbreak in the GEO facility. There's been, I think, one reported case, but it's a highly infectious disease, and people that work there, that visit there, go in and out of the facility. And the fact that the GEO facility has not been cooperating with public health officials consistent with state law. And so we put out this statement, and we would like the support of council.
To be clear, we didn't put it out yet.
We hadn't put it out yet. We'd like the support of council to put it out as a statement from the city.
Yeah, and Mayor, I would just, if I may, I would just add that last I heard there were 12 cases. So it does appear that from that first case that it has not surprisingly spread within the facility, and wouldn't be surprising as well too if it's spread outside of the facility. And so I did email this statement to everybody earlier today as well. So yeah, I guess.
So this is really not how you feel about the issue of immigration or immigration enforcement or any particular entity. It's simply a public health question, and it should be addressed accordingly. Any comments? Councilmember Bergen.
Yeah, since we don't oversee the health department, so you're saying there was one person that came into the facility with tuberculosis, and we have actual facts that other individuals were contracted it?
No, we have, Mayor Pro Tem may have more recent information. The information I had, people were exposed, and so we don't know how many people, and so that's the problem. I think it's, particularly in close quarters, it is highly infectious. It is difficult. It's not easy to treat. It's a form of bacteria, and so the simple issue here is that they ought to be, and I think there is going to be litigation on this issue if there's not compliance, but they really ought to be complying with public health state law.
Well, so my question, I'm very familiar with tuberculosis. My mom had it during the war. Where's the health department in this? Adams County Health Department, what statement have they issued and what have they done to mitigate the outbreak? Because that's their responsibility to work with GEO, right? Oh,
so yeah, and they've been working hard on it with state officials as well, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, so they requested the ability to go in, identify, monitor, carry out their public health duties, and they were refused access to do so. And that's the reason why we have put together this statement, is because Adams County Public Health was not permitted to go in and monitor and address the outbreak.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and then GEO reported only one person had it?
However, other folks in detention have reported out through their sources that additional people have tested positive, although that information has not been reported by GEO. Additionally, GEO did not inform the city of Aurora, which was already in our prior ordinances, that they should have been informing AFR. And they did not contact AFR in any way either.
And if I could say, when I was in Congress, we had it was a problem with, I was on the Veterans Affairs Committee, and there was a problem with VA facilities not reporting. to the local health departments. And so the issue is not new to me. Further questions or comments? Councilmember Lawson. I'm sorry. Let's see.
Hancock.
Okay, Councilmember Lawson, then Councilmember Hancock. Councilmember Hancock.
Okay, so I understand what we're doing, but what do we expect the outcome with us issuing a statement with regards to this if the GO facility decides they're not going to cooperate? Do we have any leverage whatsoever, or are we just issuing a statement?
Well, first of all, there may be, I think Adams County and the state of Colorado may be prepared to go to court to force them to comply. But I think it's in our interest to protect the public health of our community to be able to merely make a statement that infects, that in fact requests or demands that they comply on behalf of our residents.
Yeah, and this would be a question I have for the city attorney. Sorry, I'm putting you on the spot. I should have known to ask you about this ahead of time. But our ordinance regarding notification our new ordinance regarding notification that includes penalties went into effect on Friday.
Saturday, the 25th.
Or Saturday.
Yeah.
So if there are additional cases identified after that date, then does our ordinance impact that? Or like, would they be bound by our ordinance to report those additional cases? And if they don't do it, they would be subject to penalties?
So again, just thinking off the cuff, what I think is because it's already established that there was a case of TB in the facility, it would have to be a break, right? That there hasn't been any cases, and then there would be another case that they would have to report to. So I think that there's that window that because it's already happened before the ordinance went into effect, but if we hear about it future, and I know I've been working with the city manager to figure out what the inspections will look like, and that is in progress.
Sorry, just follow up.
Yeah.
So in our general penalty currently, additional days of a violation past the first violation also count as new violations. Does that not apply to this case?
Again, I have to look. I mean, that would be me just diving in to say, because it's already been reported, right? GO did acknowledge that there was a case of TB in their facility. If there's new ones, yes, I agree with you. I think we could use that if they don't notify us at that point and file a case against the corporation. But again, it's just timing and trying to figure out what exactly is actually. We don't really know what is going on in the GO facility, as you know. So.
And let me, whether or not it complies with our ordinance, that the fact is they haven't given Adams County Public Health access. Councilmember Lawson.
And I understand that, but I also, there was a report or an update from Congressman Crow's office on July 15th about confirmed the one case. So you're saying there has been other cases as well besides after the report of Congressman Crow's oversight update that was provided on July 15th. And so I'm just wondering about that and what kind of reference to this are we doing? Because he actually is a congressman who did go into the facility, did report that there was a case, but that person was deported. So are there other cases that you said there was more cases even after this update?
Right. So other individuals in the facility are reporting out to their contacts that there are additional cases. There's only been one confirmed case, which is why the statement says case, not cases or outbreak or anything of that nature, because nobody else has been able to go in. Right? The public health department has not been able to go in and identify contacts, infections, other issues. And so that's really the purpose of this statement, is just saying, GO, just let the public health entities in to identify whether there are additional cases and to contain any additional spread of the infection.
Okay. Further questions or comments, and then we need to get going. Councilmember Bergen.
So this individual obviously had TB before entering the GO facility. So where was he in contact, or who was he in contact with outside of GO? Like
We don't have that information because nobody has been able to go in and investigate.
I think there are protocols that that Adams County Public Health has in terms of what they're required to do for an investigation, and the fact is, their geo's not cooperative in it, and so we have an incident here, there could be other incidents down the road. So is anybody in opposition to having, the reason why we're here is that the Mayor Pro Tem and I have to have the majority of votes, the majority of support to be able to utilize communications to put it out. And so is there objection for us to utilize communications to put out the statement? Okay. Seeing none, then that will be the position of the city. Very well. Are there any issue updates? Is there any objection to moving the consent calendar forward, item number 2A through 2E? Seeing none, the consent.
Mayor, I apologize. Can we just get an update? I'm trying to remember this. I think it's section 134. I'll have to open my e-script.
I can give you the
2E. Yep.
The short version of it is, this is an ordinance update to make our local ordinance compatible with state law. There was an update in state law, and so this went to public safety earlier this month, and this is just an ordinance update to make sure that we're complying with the changes in state law.
And the reason it's dual listed, Mayor Pro Tem, is because of the timing. This was a bill that was signed late and then was a very short effective date, and so that's why we did put it through public safety, but we're having to rush it just so we can get it in compliance. And this wasn't anything, we did get a couple media inquiries today about the speeding citations issues. This has nothing to do with that. This is all about legislative changes that we're required to comply with.
Mayor?
Yes.
So the only question I had was, there is an addition to 134-450 paragraph A that says an automated vehicle identification system does not include an automated license plate reader system. Is that part of the state law, or is that an addition we're making for any reason?
That was in the Senate bill specifically, so I don't want to.
Okay.
Sorry, Mandy McConnell from the City Attorney's Office.
Thank you.
Further questions or discussion? Seeing none, is there any objection to moving the consent calendar forward? Then consent calendar will move forward. Item number 3A, Aurora Regional Navigation Campus. Councilmember Horton.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate the opportunity to share this resolution that I have been working diligently with staff and with Advanced Pathway to really determine alignment and to show City Council's attention and investment in this innovative idea and this innovative facility as they help our unhoused community members. So a lot of it is just specificity around metrics, setting expectations, making sure that there is clarity and accountability and transparency overall when it comes to the process and procedures within the Aurora Regional Navigation Campus, and making sure that I'm leaning on the experts, Jim and his team, as well as staff. And so that's my very brief summary of it. Happy to answer any questions, and I believe there's folks in the room, if there's more technical answers, can also assist.
Questions? Councilmember Hancock.
I do have questions regarding this because I'm concerned, not that I don't take your word for it, Councilmember Horton, but I feel like we should have had Jim from Advanced Pathways here to discuss this before we move this forward into it.
Okay, but let me just say, go ahead, Councilmember Horton.
Sorry, Mayor. I see Jim online
So
here.
Jim, may I continue?
Yes, please.
So Jim, with regards to the reporting and those issues that are referenced here, do you have, what staff, or are you hiring additional staff to perform these performance evaluations, data reporting, financial reporting, and the like?
Repeat.
It's not a good.
I think you're coming in pretty rough. Okay, well, let me just say that Advanced Pathways was in discussion. So what Councilmember Horton initially introduced and this final product, the changes were really a function of her negotiating with staff and Advanced Pathways to get, and it is my understanding, and maybe staff can tell me, can confirm this, that I believe that Advanced Pathways did sign, or the executive director did sign off on this. Roberto, am I correct in that?
Yes, Roberto, I guess we went through over several weeks with Jim on every single line of the item. There may be some areas, or one area in particular with regards to the board function, but everything else was agreed upon between staff, Advance, on the terms of the resolution.
Very well.
So with that said, can you answer my question?
Okay.
That would be a staff question for Jim. He never raised that issue with us with regards to, because much of what's in the resolution is also part of the operator agreement. Many of the elements of the operator agreement require the same kinds of reporting, the same kinds of metrics. The resolution, as my understanding from Councilmember Horton, was to make it more of a policy statement of the council, even though much of the reporting requirements are already a part of what we do on a quarterly basis as part of the operator agreement. But I'll let Jim speak to that.
Jim?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so the performance metrics are very consistent with the operator's agreement, and we have no issue with those. The only one, as was mentioned, was 7B regarding board meeting announcements and related minutes. But everything else seemed very consistent with the operator's agreement.
Very well. Further discussion? Okay, Councilmember Hancock.
So let me just ask again. With regards to the reporting metrics, the other things that I just had indicated before, performance evaluation, data reporting, all of those things, is that existing staff doing that, or what are the hours that would take for that to happen? Or are you currently doing that, and would this cause you to have to hire additional staff to perform this function?
We are currently doing that. We would not need to hire additional staff.
And with regards to the medical staff and the case management staff, are you up to capacity with those members now?
No, the respite rooms are not available because of the renovation work being done to the Tier 3 or the tower part of the building. When those are fully available, then we will engage with the health system and related health professionals to be able to help support providing those services. But to date, they have not been available.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Councilmember Morgan.
Yeah, on that, I guess it's 3A on the medical respite bed. So if the accommodations are not available to even be able, how are you going to meet that by July 1 of 27? I think maybe that should be adjusted to kind of correlate with what you just said, that when it's available, because otherwise you're being held to having that done by July 1 when it's not even conceivable.
We're anticipating that the first floor would be done and available within safely the next 3 to 6 months for sure. And therefore, we would hope to have those rooms available to be able to offer them to the health system.
Okay.
What if they're not available? Then, I mean, I just don't want you being dinged by something you can't control.
Let me, if I could defer to DCM Venegas.
Yeah, just to amplify what Jim said, we specifically moved that to July of 2027 to allow ample time, understanding that the renovations should be done in the third quarter or fourth quarter to allow enough of time for those respite beds to be put in place. Having said this is a resolution, not a binding contractual agreement, right? So we would work with Jim, understanding that our construction schedule has to be able to accommodate his ability to do the respite beds. So we would adjust the resolution if we needed to do that. But we felt, given about a year now, we felt very confident that we'd have available rooms on the first floor to allow for the respite bids to be put in place well in advance of July 1st of 2027. And we agreed on that with Jim in terms of that language. So we're not trying to gotcha here, but we just want to make sure we're working with him, and we'll work with Jim on making sure those spaces are available.
Okay. Further questions?
Mayor, just a question.
Yeah, Councilmember Lawson?
Councilmember Horton, so you have all of this in the resolution. When is this report, when is a timeline, I'm not even talking about the year, where council will be updated on these measurable things in this resolution? I don't really see that in there. Do you have is it like a year, or are you just is it kind of going to go through policy committee, then council will get a report because we want to see if they're being met? And if there needs to be some changes, or there might be some gaps, or there might be something that Advance may need to follow up on. Do you have a idea of that?
I'm going to take that question. I'll unraise my hand. Thanks, Councilmember Lawson. A great question. In one of the original drafts, I believe the one we presented at Horns back in June, we did have a time frame, and the feedback that we received from that document was to not pigeonhole Jim and his team into a strict timeline, but to allow some conversations and flexibility, especially as some of this is new, some of this hasn't been quite consolidated, and obviously with the current renovations, right, that delays parts of this resolution. And as you know, Councilmember Jackson has requested that Jim present, or Advanced Pathways presents monthly at the Horns Committee, and so I think in partnership with Jim here and his team is to set, really Jim, asking you what makes the most sense on a time frame that works for Advanced Pathways to report out. Part of the conversations that have been had is, we can start looking at about 6 months from now and then go from there. But it's not, you're correct, it's not written into this document to allow for flexibility.
Okay. Further questions or comments? I'm sorry.
Comment. I believe 9B outlines the time frame of 6 months.
Okay. Councilmember Wiles?
I want to thank Councilmember Horton and the Horns team for bringing this forward. We get a lot of emails about the Navigation Center. This is a multi-million-dollar project. It's things that taxpayers' funds and grants have been used for. And I think having reliable data points at an appropriate cadence is really important in order to honor the investment made by taxpayers. And so I think this is a great thing. It will help me to answer some of the questions that I'm getting just in terms of about the Navigation Center in general. And I think the data points will prove useful to see where we can help support Jim and his team and where there may be gaps that we need to fill. So
let me just say that 75% of the operating budget is privately funded. And if you think you're going to be hard in terms of your questions, they're going to be much harder in terms of their questions. Further questions or comments? Seeing none. I'm sorry. Mayor Pro Tem.
So I would just also note that the kind of quarterly review and reporting for the kind of quality assurance and performance improvement metrics are pretty standard practice for any type of facility that provides services to the community and works through any kind of a case management model. And so appreciate seeing that and look forward to seeing those outcomes. Thank you to Councilmember Horton, Jim, and our staff for working on this.
Is there any objection to moving 3A forward?
I just have a question.
Councilmember Bergen.
Are we going to do this for all the nonprofits? Because I think this is a good idea, and we have had many nonprofits that had very little accountability to us in the past. I think it's a good model for all nonprofits.
Okay. Further questions or comments? Seeing none, is there any objection to moving 3A forward? Seeing none, 3A will move forward. And I forgot to mention something in Mayor's report at the beginning, and that is I had the mayor appoints to the Aurora Housing Board, and I had one appointment to that board, and I think because of, and so the two reasons why I appointed myself. One is to make sure that we're aligned between the affordable housing goals of the city with the affordable housing goals of the Aurora Housing Authority. I think we've been working in silos. And equally important, spending a lot of time at the Navigation Center there are individuals who either they're elderly or they're handicapped by some measure, it may be mental health, that need to be housed. So I think being in both venues will enable me to move that process forward. Item number 3B, Paul Tower, Aurora City Council Chamber Accessibility Improvement Project Update. Ellie Watson, Assistant Director of Public Works.
Just to recap a little bit of the project history and how we got here today, in the 2021 AMC Campus Space Study, we identified some accessibility challenges in the chamber. $750,000 from our ARPA funds was allocated in 2022 to design improvements for those accessibility challenges. We completed that design in 2023. That included improvements to the chamber floor and no changes to the dais. In 2024, we also, council decided to defer construction with the ongoing ADA transition plan underway and reallocated those funds. In January 2026, we met with you and also completed our facility assessment. And council asked that we revisit the design, incorporate some of the findings from that assessment, and bring the design back to council. That's where we're at today. Thanks. To orient you to the existing conditions of the chamber, right now there is wheelchair seating at the top. That's the open area right when you walk into the chambers. And there is, of course, the ramp, which on the slide is showing at the bottom of the slide, or the lift. And that's how a member of the public accesses the podium or the council floor. There is also floor seating available for wheelchair spaces as well. Access to the council dais is through the chambers up a set of stairs or through this room via the ramp behind us. Some of the findings from the January 2026 assessment: the wheelchair spaces are not dispersed vertically throughout the chambers. There's room at the bottom of the chamber as well as at the top. There is not a compliant number of wheelchair spaces, and the lift does not conform to ADA standards, which means we really don't have an accessible path to the floor. The lift the reason it does not conform, there's some issues with how you access the lift through the door, and then it's a little small circulation space, and then the lever or button that is used is also not conforming to current ADA standards. And we don't, from the chamber itself, have an accessible path to the dais. It's just those couple set of stairs. There are wheelchair accessible seats at the top and the bottom of the chambers that have basically a side panel that opens and you scoot onto the chair. We have discovered through that assessment that those chairs are also not accessible. The buttons on the chair to access the panel are not located at the right height. And then there were less significant findings with, the height of signage that was mounted or outlets, and the protrusions at the dais, not enough knee room, not enough circulation room at the dais. So the project recommendations of the current design, this is what you have seen before. This recommendation has not changed. We're recommending 2 ramps be built into the dais. The reason we need 2 ramps is because in order to access the floor and the dais, we don't have enough room to do that via 1 ramp and get the right slope and the right landings to access both spots. So we'll have 1 ramp that will access the dais and 1 ramp that would access the floor. I'm going to take you back really quick. So slide right, you'll see what looks like a ramp right on the edge there. That's actually a storage closet that's at floor level. And so the ramp that accesses the floor would utilize that space where that existing closet is. Where the design has since evolved, since we've revisited it with the facility assessment, is that we are recommending that we raise the floor about 6 inches. This will allow us to get a better slope on those ramps as suggested by the ADA consultant. And it will also provide floor level seating for the wheelchair spaces with companion seating. As also suggested by the ADA consultant. The original design still had that seating kind of go up a ramp. So this leaves it at floor level, so you avoid having to do that once you get down to the floor. And we'd also do new seating throughout so that we can replace those non-accessible seats with the side panels. The one thing that we are not addressing with this suggestion from the assessment is dispersing wheelchair seating throughout the chambers. So we will have the accessible seats with the side panels for people with other types of mobility challenges that will conform to ADA standards, and we can disperse those vertically throughout. But due to the structure of the building and everything that the floor is supporting, and where the ramp has to go at the right slope to provide a landing, we don't have wheelchair spaces vertically throughout. But we're going to redo the top area where it sits now to allow companion seating. Right now, if someone in a wheelchair wants to use that top level, we just have folding chairs that we would bring in for companion seating, and that area is still not conforming to the circulation we need. So we're going to redo that whole area to have companion seating and wheelchair accessible seating at the top, and then as you can see in the photo, also in the rendering, wheelchair seating at the bottom. We also have, for your consideration, an add alternate that we could incorporate into the project. This will also rebuild the dais. The dais does not have the circulation that it needs behind the desks for someone, especially in a bigger like power chair or something like that. So providing the ramp to the dais is a huge improvement, but we would still have some challenges behind the dais. And so this alternate would basically bring the dais forward, provide more circulation behind, rebuild that desk. It does obviously need to do that, we need to push back the podium, the staff desk. So we would lose that center first row of seating, where in the base recommendation, our wheelchair seats are in that first row. If we do the dais, we lose that floor level seating right there, so the wheelchair seating would move to the side of the chamber, but we'd have a much more accessible dais. This also would require redesigning a lot of the AV components, the projection screens that we have, because they're designed for the distance to the chamber, lighting, cameras, those kind of things. So some things to consider with the construction impacts. Right now, at this level of design, we're anticipating 6 to 8 month duration. Majority of that work would occur during business hours. We cannot phase the work and keep chambers open for council meetings to protect all that AV and technology equipment that I was just referencing. We need to remove it and store it for the duration of construction. So, staff would recommend that for the duration of construction, we hold meetings virtually with a call-in line for public invited to be heard. Virtual council meetings will provide the most accessible method of public participation throughout the duration of construction. We really just have challenges throughout all our other city locations in accommodating an accessible public meeting of the size that we've seen for council meetings. To assist in that, we have a second recommendation, which is that we would, if council desired to move forward with the construction project, that we would get a contractor on board now to assist in the design process, which we do quite often, and there's lots of benefits to that, including their help with the budget so that we're designing to the budget and there's no surprises. They could be bidding while we're designing to help us with that. And they can help with constructability review, which building these ramps has a lot of structural considerations, and so it would be great to have them on board for that. But one of the key things is that they can also help us refine and optimize the schedule so that we can plan, and we'll have the plan in place later this year for when you're scheduling your 2027 calendar. We'll better know the exact duration of that closure. So having them on will really help a lot with the schedule. There will be an impact to access Aurora. There will need to be some temporary bracing that will have to utilize the wall that they share with the chambers. And so having the contractor on can help us quite a bit with coordinating that impact as well. The important stuff, the cost estimate. So the base scope, which is the ramps that we showed you with the new seating, and addressing the smaller findings from the assessment as well, things, where the doors were a little too heavy or the signage was too high, addressing, all those basic findings is just under 1.4 million. If we include the dais, then we're just under 2 million. The design is underway right now and has already been funded. You guys approved use of those funds at the winter workshop. And the small cost for the pre-construction services, if approved with the contractor, we can fund from existing funds as well. So if council authorizes us to move forward, our next steps would be a public meeting for public input on August 12th. Basically just to show them the same things that you guys saw today, what's in the design and how the future council chambers would work. We would also have a public comment period on the Engage Aurora site through much of August. If approved, we would quickly send out that RFP for that general contractor. The sooner we can get them on board, the more valuable they can be. And during that same time, simultaneously, we'll be advancing the design. Right now, we're just at the schematic level that you saw. So we'll be finalizing that, getting construction drawings, getting permitting, and then would hopefully be ready probably later in January to start construction. So our questions for you tonight are if you would like to proceed with finalizing the design and selecting the contractor. And if you do want to move forward, you also want to include the alternate for the dais.
Okay, so I think we're going to have to break it down. In general, is there any objection to moving forward? Or questions? Oh, please, yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yes, please.
So with respect to the floor raising, presumably that decreases the height differential between council and the folks down on the floor. Would the dais reconstruction also result in a little bit less of that, like we're way up here and everybody's down there?
It would. That's a concern that we've heard from council before. And so, yes, rebuilding the dais, it would still sit higher, but you'd gain, it's not going to go 6 inches with the floor going 6 inches. I think it will be a noticeable difference. I don't think you will feel that you're sitting so far above the audience. Yeah, that's a great point. Thank you.
Okay. Further questions or comments on the first part? Is there any objection to moving the first part forward? Okay, then the second part is, does council wish to include the dais alternative in the project scope?
Mayor, I'm sorry, I do have one other
Councilmember
question.
Wiles.
I think we should, at this point, to have to go back and redo construction to try and add it later on would be more expensive. And who's to say that next election, somebody in a wheelchair won't be elected, and then would they be able to access their chair correctly or, have all the same mobility options that we have? So to me, I think it's a no-brainer. I know it's more money, but get it done now versus having to redo this all over again.
Further questions or comments?
Mayor.
Mayor Protem.
I mean, in addition, who's to say none of us would end up in a wheelchair? But my question is actually related to the virtual piece. Sorry, I intended to ask that first. Would it be possible, reasonable, feasible, et cetera, to, during construction, rather than having completely virtual meetings?
If I can get to the virtual, if we can do this one first.
Okay.
And then we'll get to the virtual.
Okay.
On the dais. Is there objection to the second part? Councilmember Hancock?
Do you know how much lower? Did you say it would be 6 inches lower, or?
It would be about 6 inches.
Okay. But it would still be up above, because I.
Yeah, so that you can.
Safety and security.
Yeah, from a safety and security standpoint, you'd still be a little above, and also for viewing of the entire audience, yeah.
Mayor,
Okay. Councilmember Andrews?
would it be the same proximity from where the podium is and where the dais is now?
I think that it would be, the podium would be a little bit closer to the dais. We haven't got to that level of detail, and so if that's something that you want us to pay special attention to, we certainly can. But I just picture the space that is currently there, and it's pretty cramped. I'm thinking that it's probably going to narrow a
City
little
Manager?
bit.
If I could put Ellie on the spot a little bit. So notice the terminology that Ellie's used here is, talking about it as an ad alternate. So part of this is we haven't gone into that design. So the methodology that they laid out here for you is to really get that, one, use a CMGC project delivery. So that's a construction manager, general contractor at risk. Bring them on board. We'll start doing a more detailed kind of work through that. Once we know you all want that alternate, we'll work through all the issues there. If you look at that picture, it's not, hopefully you caught it, you'll notice that the dais is now straight, right? Because they're trying to create more space behind the dais for you all, for somebody to have access to that. So that's one of those things too, is that we don't know if it's straightening it, if it's, sort of just moving the whole thing forward. Those are the type of things that when we get into that detailed design, we need to kind of go through. So that ad alternate is, we would do a base bid, and we would probably bid this as an ad alternate, working through it with our CMGC. So Ellie, if I got that right, confirm it, and then you could just walk us through how that would look in terms of project delivery, and if there's kind of a check-in point for council on that, in terms of, like you said, what their interest levels are.
Yes, we can definitely provide, as that design advances, additional details, and can certainly get comment from you prior to advancing that design of what kind of things are important to you and what you might want to see, because maybe smaller staff desks would help keep the podium kind of the same distance as it is now. So there's a variety of things that we could look at. And so, yeah, we would love your feedback too as to what you would want us to look at as we progress that portion of the design.
Okay. Mayor Protem.
Yeah, so just in light of, obviously, the concerns and questions we've had about virtual meetings and...
Okay, did we...
oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, is there, on the alternative, is there any objection?
I have a question.
I'm sorry, and who's?
Councilmember Bergen.
Councilmember Bergen, I'm sorry.
What was the cost difference?
About $575,000.
And where are we getting that money? Because we're in a deficit. We will be.
Yeah, so we will, part of this is, these are all cost estimates, so we've got funding in the capital projects fund roughly for the base plus a little bit more. So we will plus a little bit more. So part of this is that's why we want to kind of go out, do this cost estimates. We have some ability within the capital projects fund to fund the full amount there. We can fund this. So that's, sort of part of what we want to do on this is, again, get that CMGC on board, start designing to that budget that we think we can fund and that we've got authorization for, and bring the project in on that budget.
There is a little, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine if we really do have the funds. I do not want funds taken away from other projects, especially roads or anything like that. So I guess we'll see what it comes in at.
Further questions or comments on the alternate? Seeing none, is there any objection for that option? Okay, next is virtual. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, so obviously we've had a number of concerns about this. I do wonder if we could do like council and staff in the Aurora room and folks have the option of being in the lobby viewing the meeting, which they currently can do from the council chambers as well as during study session, as a possible consideration.
We can look at all those options. I will say that we've looked at other options out at different city facilities, and it's that access to it. And then first and foremost is really making sure that we have high quality audiovisual recording. As you all know, we've done some off-sites for workshops, and those just it's very difficult, right? And so that fully virtual is fully accessible. So that's we want to make sure we start with that as a baseline. We could look at doing it here with potentially folks in the lobby. There's some options like that. But recreating what we have in the chambers is not an option that we've been able to find. So if there's other things like that that kind of approach that, we can certainly look at those. But again, we don't think we have an option to recreate what we have in the chambers where we have a 100% in-person meeting option with sort of a simultaneous broadcast on Aurora TV.
One other option. I know that APS does not meet at the same time as we do, so maybe we could also talk to them about using their facility while we're under construction that they use for their meetings.
We certainly could. It's the same issue there that they essentially their board meets in a room the size of this, and then the public is in a room across the hall. And then, so it would be very similar to what you described here. So it's, again, they don't have an option to have large in-person attendance in the same room. And so it is a challenge. But yeah, so we've presented to APS, and that's the format they have is, again, the board in one room, public in another. And so, but that's, if something you all want to explore, we can look at that.
So in that option, then you would have so you have people out there that are able to communicate, right? But then do you accommodate people that are calling in addition to that aren't physically present under that option?
Those would be the options that we would have to, I think, to go through in terms of what you all are looking for. Again, the recommendation was 100% virtual. We know we can do that. We can accommodate the call-in line. If you all want to sort of look at a hybrid in person with while still meeting that live broadcast, we can look at those options, whether that's potentially at the APS facility or some combination of using the Aurora room and the chambers. But yes, Mayor, those are issues we'd have to work through.
APS, are they able to see on a screen the individuals that are communicating from outside the conference room?
My understanding, I think they actually bring them into the room one at a time, so they actually have them walk across the conference space. So they come out, they call them and just have them do that. That's my recollection of how they did it when we've gone, but those are details we'd have to work through.
Okay. Further questions or comments, Mayor Pro Tem?
Mayor, my proposal would be that we could have staff come back to us with this closer to when it would actually need to be implemented with those options available.
Very well. Discussion on Mayor Pro Tem's.
Yeah, Mayor,
Councilmember Bergen.
this has been an issue, I guess, going back to 2019 or something. And certainly former Councilmember Marcano was very adamant about getting this done, and I don't understand why we are delaying it. I think we should move with the schedule that staff has come up with, and I'm very concerned about security at other facilities. So I would not be in favor of delaying this any further.
Mayor,
Mayor Patino.
to clarify, I'm not suggesting delaying the project. I'm suggesting delaying the virtual/in-person discussion until the project is underway.
Okay.
There's a decision, deliberating a little bit more on the decision to go virtual and how we proceed from a standpoint of accommodating the public, but not delaying going forward with a construction project. The Mayor Pro Tem is asked if there's a consensus in terms of options for staff to come back with options on how we could proceed in terms of accommodating the public. Is there objection to that? Seeing none, then that's the direction we'll take.
And the last question is just, folks are okay, can we proceed with moving forward with procuring a construction manager, general contractor at risk, so that's CMGC. So sort of that's the next step for us. We're going to go ahead and develop that RFP, get that person on board so that we've got that piece of it. So again.
Is there any discussion on the question in terms of staff proceeding to engage contractors? Seeing none, then is there any objection? Then that's the way we'll proceed. Okay, item number 5A, a charter amendment concerning timing of municipal elections and transitional extension of terms of office. Councilmember Jackson.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks, everybody. So this effort is around strengthening our municipal election democracy and increasing access to elections. From various research across the nation, municipal governments that switch from off-year cycles to on-year cycles being in alignment with the presidential election see greater voter turnout, and there's a lot of reasons why that is. Just consolidating, it gives folks a chance to engage in politics when they are being covered nationally across the whole nation, and so there's just naturally more conversation going on about it. And so municipalities who have switched from off years to on years see an exponential increase in voter turnout. So the effort here is to just increase voter turnout for our municipal elections and make sure that that money that we are spending for elections is actually reaching all constituents.
Let me just say that in a general election, a lot of people vote the top of the ballot and they don't go all the way to the bottom of the ballot. And if you look at RTD, they should be moved from the general election to the odd year because they're just so buried as a nonpartisan office that whoever's top in the alphabet tends to win. Councilmember Bergen.
Yeah, I was going to make that point as well. We had this discussion back again several years back about this moving to even years, and it didn't move forward at the time, primarily because we felt that it was going to cause voters to have, first of all, an extremely long ballot. They're going to have state, they're going to have county, and then they're going to have local, and we're going to be at the bottom of the ballot. People do have, voter fatigue and don't necessarily make it to the bottom of the ballot. Also, beyond just being kind of ignored on the ballot, competition for fundraising is going to be more difficult. You're going to be competing with people who are running for state offices, who are running for county offices, and then you're going to have voters are going to be inundated with mailboxes full of direct mail and social media and everything from a million different races. So I think personally it dilutes the local elections. I think people should pay attention to city council as its own election because local is closest to the people, and in my opinion, is the most effective form of government versus top down. So I would be in opposition of it.
Further questions or comments? Councilmember Jackson, then Councilmember Hancock.
Okay. I just wanted to add with the ballot fatigue that Councilmember Bergen brought up that some people might not vote in local races. However, more people participate overall. So even if folks are skipping, some choose to skip the municipal contest, the total number of ballots that's cast when your municipal elections are on cycles, even years, it's still increased. And with local races getting lost, local issues don't become less important because there's more people voting. So it's still, that's kind of almost a red herring argument because it's on the candidates to run their race and bring that education to the people when it comes to getting their message out.
Further questions or comments? Councilmember Hancock, then Mayor Pro Tem.
I love that story. It's one of my favorites. When we have these elections all lumped together like this, I believe that the local elections tend to get lost in the sauce. Typically, voters are not as informed about local politics as they are about national. And I find a level of bias here that, having run a campaign, as we all have, knock on the door, first thing they ask is, I hate Trump. Or I hate Biden. They don't care about anybody else. They don't know you. They don't care about you. They don't care about the issues unless you, as you had pointed out, educate them at the door. We don't always have that time to do that. Frankly, voters aren't as informed as they should be about this. And when we're lumped in, we're diluted as a municipality, and our votes, our impact is less felt because people are not paying attention. They'll just start at the top of the ballot and just check all the way down, or they'll just vote for the national candidates or CD6 or CD8 or whoever it is and forget the rest of them. I think it's great that we have our own elections. We have our own time where we fight for it and we work for it and we do the things that we need to do. I mean, our future should not be decided by voters focused on a national election. It should be focused on Aurora and what Aurora is doing. I think, there have been complaints about dark money, outside influential money coming in. It's going to pour in here, and you think you hate it now. You will really hate it as these national campaigns come in to influence what happens in our city. I think this is what helps us stand alone in that our municipal elections have the power on them, or they stand on their own so that people can do the work to preserve and protect and to, really set Aurora apart in our elections. It keeps it thoughtful. It keeps the national policy agendas out of our local municipal elections. And I think I'm a no on this, and I'm hoping that, I know what's going to happen. But I think the voters in this city should be paying very close attention to what is happening here. It becomes highly partisan, it becomes highly political, and it becomes highly funded by external sources that we don't want.
Let me say the cost of campaigning, we go through the roof. Councilmember Lawson. Oh, I'm sorry, Mayor Pro Tem.
No worries. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councilmember Lawson, for deferring. So currently, the voter fatigue in our municipal elections is very real. So when we want to talk about voter fatigue, we can look at the fact that 40% is good turnout, is relatively high turnout in a municipal election. When we look at our general elections, even the midterms have a turnout of around 75%, and the down ballot roll-off risk does not decrease the voter participation by 35%. So even if everyone who was impacted by that down ballot roll-off risk didn't vote in the municipal elections, we would still have higher turnout than we do in our odd year elections. In addition, that voter fatigue is partly about you have to vote every single year, and you have someone knocking on your door every single summer, all summer long, And so the impact to our neighbors, who I think most of us who have knocked doors have experienced plenty of people who are like, you know what, I'm pretty tired of having someone knocking on my door every primary election, every general election, every city council election. It's like I can never get away from these people knocking on my doors. And so it would create for folks the opportunity to know when they can expect political outreach and when they can expect some sort of reprieve. And for the candidates, it also creates that because most folks that are campaigning in a municipal election are also supporting others who are campaigning in general elections. And so if you're out knocking doors, you're also out knocking doors every single year. So I think it creates a more stable and reliable campaign season that reduces fatigue for everyone who's actively involved in the process, and that's one of the reasons why I support this.
Further questions?
Better turnout is
Councilmember Lawson?
good.
So, I mean, as this council knows, we have 3 ballot questions that is on the ballot that we're trying to get for Build Up Aurora. I'm not saying that maybe this shouldn't be something that should be brought up, but for this election, I don't think we should put this on the ballot because of the 3 Build Up Aurora questions that we have that we're trying to pass for our capital improvements and things like that. I mean, I think this could overtake a lot of that. So, and I believe in the coordinated elections. I think it gives people, candidates time, because you are going to be immersed in so many elections and all of that during the general, that I think during the coordinated, you can really get yourself out as a candidate. And I just think it should just stay the same. And I definitely don't agree with 3 years. So, but I'm just saying with the 3 ballot questions that we have, maybe this could be put to another year instead of now because we have these questions on the ballot. So I'm a no for this, just for the reasons I just proposed.
Well, how much does this cost? Katie, who can speak to the cost of this?
I can, yes. So for even number election years, it does cost quite a bit more money due to the voter service polling centers that have to be utilized by the counties. For example, in 2022.
Oh, please stand up, John.
Oh, okay. I'll come up here. Yeah. Okay. So for even election years, it does cost quite a bit more money. From Arapahoe County, they use a cost allocation by doing a weighted population average method. So they take all of the active voter counts for our jurisdiction, and then they take the sum of the active registered voter counts for all coordinating jurisdictions, and that's how they come up with their weighted measurement of how much to invoice us, which is a lot less than if they would do it by active registered voters, which Adams County and Douglas County do. So, for example, in 2022, it was a midterm election. We had 1 ballot question, and it was $300,000. In 2025, it's a coordinated election. We had 5 council seats and 5 ballot questions, and it was $70,000. So a midterm election, especially on even election years versus odd election years, is quite a bit different.
Further, Member Tim.
Yeah, so I do think we need to talk to Arapahoe County about this issue because essentially what's happening in that case is elections that they are already paying for, they're going to shift the cost off onto us because we've chosen to have our elections during that even year cycle. And essentially they don't have to run an election for us in those other years. So it seems like we need to have that conversation with them of what does this actually look like?
Yeah, and if I can respond, I do have itemized invoices for each election year, and it does show exactly what they pay for county staff, election judges, ballot and envelope printing, ballot printing programming, BSPC locations, security expenses, election notices, and postage. So it does cost more during an even election year, especially midterms, because the ballot is larger and there are more people voting.
Councilmember Hancock.
I was generalizing. I was saying that in general, that's a good year.
Roughly out of 270,000 registered voters, 70,000 voted. That's roughly 25%. So that's significantly lower than you had mentioned before. And if you add that to the general election where everybody's voting with everybody else, we're going to be totally lost in this loss. We'll just, it'll be even more dismal.
And let me just say, it hasn't served the RTD board well. And I think that's the only nonpartisan race in the general election ballot. And they're just buried. And there's no way they can break through. So it's usually, if you look at historically, it's who's first in the alphabet, because I think that's the order they put them in. Further questions or comments?
Mayor.
Councilmember Jackson.
Yeah, so I think that the analysis of the cost does need to get a further breakdown, but either way, the cost, if it does cost more, that's the point of bringing this forward, is to strengthen our democracy, to get more voters engaged. The analysis that Arapahoe County is doing is off of active registered voters, but we want to strengthen our democracy and allow for people, for all of Aurora to be able to participate more easily, efficiently, effectively in our election. So yes, that's the point. There will be more people who show up to vote, which will require more funds during the even year presidential elections. That's why we're trying to move our municipal elections to even year so we can increase voter turnout, which is what the government should be doing to serve the people.
Further questions or comments?
Mayor.
Councilmember Bergen.
So we're going to be competing with everyone during even years. And I think, Mary, you made the point, this is really going to cost more to campaign. You're going to have to stand out amongst so many different candidates for various offices that you're going to end up having to probably raise double what you currently raise just to even get recognized out there. I think there's a motive behind this, and it's not democracy.
Councilmember Jackson.
Just to respond to that, with previous campaign races that were run, I think the winners were outspent 5-1. So I don't think the direct analysis of money to outcome to work is a apples to apples comparison.
Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem.
So I think the other point that's being missed in this entire conversation is that what's being asked is not that we as a council decide whether or not voters should vote in odd or even years. What's being asked is to ask the voters what they want to do. If the voters come back and say, nope, we love voting every year, we love having everything separated out, great, then we leave it that way. But this is just asking the voters to weigh in. Do they want to vote every year, or do they want to vote every other year?
Further questions? Councilmember Bergen.
Yeah, and it'll pass with the voters, because the voters are going to be like, oh, yay, one less election, without looking at the consequences of being down ballot and the rest of it. So it'll probably pass.
Further questions or comments? Is there objection to moving item number 5A forward? The mayor objects.
I object.
Okay.
Bergen.
1, 2, 3, 4. Seeing the majority in support, item number 5A will move forward.
And Curtis is not here, but he'd be against it.
Okay. Speaking for Councilmember Curtis Gardner. Okay. Seeing no further issues before the Aurora City Council study session, the meeting is adjourned. And we will go into executive session at 5:35.